Indeed, Dean Dellavecchia and the Lyman Hall Jazz Band. I hope you caught them at the Golden Globes last night. They said they'd make it back in time, and they did. Fantastic. We welcome everyone to tonight's evening, which begins with the swearing in of the new members of Council, Board of Education, and Mayor. At this point, I would ask Mr. Roy Cannon to come forward and command the color guard and begin tonight's formalities. Thank you, sir.
Color guard, post the colors, and salute.
Reverend Brackett, please come forward and lead us in the invocation.
You may be seated. Methodists pray sitting down. It's a beautiful snowy evening, so it just inspired me, so I have a really long prayer. Tonight we come with hearts deeply thankful for all the gifts we have. We are thankful to those who have helped us to get where we are. And we are thankful to our current City Council members and for the Mayor for all their hard work and all their endeavors for Wallingford. Indeed, we all come from many places and backgrounds and by many paths. Yet tonight, we are all here inspired by a single mission, to struggle for the well-being of all those who inhabit this beloved place we call home. As our Mayor and City Council members assume their responsibility to lead our city, we ask that God may empower them to bear their responsibility of leadership with integrity, courage, and humility. May they always see in them dedication to service, and may we always see in us willingness to give them support. May they be inspired with courage, wisdom, and compassion, that they may stand in solidarity with the needy and the poor, defeat prejudice, and unify our Wallingford. May they be guided to know and to do what is right, to challenge and defy anything at all that would diminish justice in this place, in this land, and in the world. May our intentions be sincere, our labor selfless, and our beautiful city of Wallingford become a shining example for all to follow. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Brackett. And now I ask Commander Cannon to come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone will stand, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remain standing. The jazz ensemble, led by Dean Dellavecchia, will play the national anthem. Thank you very much. You bring great meaning to the occasion with your music. Please be seated. I now invite the Honorable Judge of Probate, Phil Wright, to come forward and conduct the oath of office to the mayor.
I, William W. Dickinson, Jr., do solemnly swear
I, William W. Dickinson, Jr., do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut,
and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut,
so long as I continue a citizen thereof,
so long as I continue as a citizen thereof,
and that I will faithfully discharge according to law
and I will faithfully discharge according to law
the duties of the office of Mayor of Wallingford
the duties of the office of Mayor of Wallingford
to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Congratulations, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you, Judge. Thank you very much, Judge, and thank you all for being here this evening. This evening is in part certainly celebratory. Campaigns are difficult and tumultuous events, and they end with elections, and this is the beginning of a new two-year term, 2 years being asked to provide guidance and leadership for the town of Wallingford and its citizens. It certainly is also a time for formalities, solemnity. An oath of office is not a small thing. Many people depend upon the judgments made by those in office to be in the interest of the community as a whole. The oath of office truly brings that home. You are a marked individual. You are being depended upon to do something constructive and positive for fellow citizens. It's also something else. You know, there was a city engineer who took a vacation day, and at the end of the day, she went back to the office to pick up the paperwork that she'd missed. She picked it up, and as she went by the security officer, she said, "Look at this. This is what I deal with just missing one day." And a voice from behind her said, "And look at this." It was the custodian pushing a huge cart overflowing with papers. "This is what I deal with every day." Work. That's what's ahead. After the celebration and the solemnity, it will be work. And I believe the people that are taking oath of office tonight will conduct themselves in a way that provides the work and the results necessary for all of us. I pledge myself to that. I thank you all for being here. And at this point, I would say we should move on with the activities. And I asked Judge Wright to come forward and give the oath of office to the town council.
You all raise your right hand, I appreciate it. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, your duties as members of the Town Council of Wallingford to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
I will now ask the town clerk to provide us with a roll call.
Certainly, Mayor. Cervoni,
Here.
Fishbein,
Here.
Laffin,
Here.
Letourneau,
Here.
Marone,
Here.
Morgenstein,
Here.
Shortell,
Here.
Testa,
Here.
Zandri.
Here.
All 9 are accounted for.
Thank you. Our first order of business is the nomination for the position of chair. Are there nominations? Yes, Mr. Shortell.
Thank you, Mayor Dickinson. I'd like to place a name in nomination for chair. I'd like to place Vinnie Cervone's name for chairman. The duties of the chair of the town council are pretty straightforward. You set the agenda every 2 weeks, you run the meeting, and you represent the council at various functions throughout the town. But while that may seem straightforward, you have to remember that you're dealing with 9 very big personalities up here with a lot of opinions, strong opinions, and passion about issues. Vinnie's been chair for 4 years now, and I think he's done a great job of making sure that every voice is heard and everything is run in a cordial and professional manner. Vinnie is respected by both Republicans and Democrats alike. One of the more overlooked qualities in good leadership, I think, is humility. And it's a virtue that I've come to value a lot more, especially lately. It takes humility when you have strong opinions on how things should be done to be a team player and set the agenda and let 8 other people with strong opinions talk for hours and hours, and Vinnie does this. It takes humility to listen to and respond to public comment, which is sometimes very helpful and insightful, and sometimes it's not. And Vinnie does a great job of always conducting himself professionally and courteously. To use a musical analogy, Vinnie is like a guitar player who resists the urge to play a loud and over-the-top solo every time and plays rhythm guitar to complement the rest of the band and keep the song going. Now, let me be clear here. Vinnie isn't perfect. I mean, he's a lawyer. And sometimes when we're sitting here in our long meetings, we'll hear sirens go by on Main Street, and Vice Chair Laffin and I have to convince Vinnie to sit in his chair and keep the meeting going and not chase after prospective clients. Sometimes we think that Chairman Cervone has a contest with Councilor Fishbein about who can show off their multi-syllabic legal vocabulary more. You will not hear the word bifurcate more often than you hear it in this room coming from them. But aside from all that, though, Vinnie is starting his 9th year on the council, his 5th term. He spent half of his career here as chair, and I think he should continue as chair. He's done an excellent job. So it gives me great pleasure and honor to nominate my colleague and my friend, Vinnie Cervone, as chair for 2 more years for the Wallingford Town Council.
Thank you, Mr. Shortell. Is there a second to the nomination? Mr. Laffin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations on your re-election. Also, congratulations to all my fellow councilors on their re-election and to Councilor Morgenstein for her addition to the Town Council. Your tireless and constant effort to be involved in the democratic process and to have your voice heard, I'm sure will serve the voters well on this side of the room as well. I would like to second the nomination of Vincent Cervone for another term as our Town Council Chairman. 2 years ago, I spoke in my nomination of Vincent as being calm and bringing dignity to the role. Over the last 2 years, he's continued to do so even stronger and more than before. Vinnie's efficient running of the meetings, his fair judgment and the exercise of that judgment in the order of the meetings, and the willingness to listen to everyone and let everyone speak their turn, more than I might even prefer, are something that I admire and look up to. He is a big brother, a trusted friend, a model counselor, and a very genuine public servant. Most of all, he is the leader of a team of very stubborn and independent-minded people. And our team works hard, and Vinnie works hard too. He's the best person for the job, as he has been in the past, and he continues to be for the next 2 years. It has been an honor to serve under your leadership to the council and to the people of Wallingford. And once again, my fellow councilors, I second the nomination for Vincent Cervone as Town Council Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Laffin. Moved and seconded. Are there further nominations? Is there a motion to close nominations?
I move we close the nominations.
Moved and seconded to close nominations. We will vote on that motion. All in favor of closing nominations, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. I guess we will seek a vote to accept Mr. Cervone as chairman of the council. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Cervone. I hand the meeting over to you, sir.
Well,
Thank you, Mayor. You might want to reconsider that. I'd like to start by thanking the voters of Wallingford for giving me another opportunity to serve as part of their government. This is an obligation I do not take lightly. Because of that, I'm honored by the confidence of the voters and will do my best to continue to serve them as I have in prior terms. I'd like to thank Councilor Shortell for his thoughtful nomination and Councilor Laffin for his thoughtful second. I'd also like to thank my fellow councilors for their support and confidence in making me chairman. This is a tremendous responsibility and an honor that, again, I do not take lightly. When people have addressed me as chairman outside the council proceedings, at times my response to them is to smile and say, I just run a meeting. I say that somewhat in jest because I know it is more than that. Among my goals for this council, the first is to do my very best to promote cohesiveness. I've said it before and will say it again. When we work together, we can continue to accomplish great things for this town. We're all here because we want what's best. We may have different perspectives as to how to accomplish that. Nonetheless, I do believe that if we can focus on what's best in the best interest of the town and treat our differing perspectives with respect, we can come together to do what is right in the end. If you've had the opportunity to review our most recent audit, which was released last week, you can see the writing is becoming more and more clear. As a result of our inability to rely upon the state for funding support, our reserves are under attack. Our once dependable fund balance is not safely locked away as many would like to believe. This is going to force us to sharpen our pencils and at the same time be vigilant and creative about opportunities to save money while sustaining funding. We need to be mindful of our strengths and our surrounding weaknesses. We have a strong business tax base here. In recent years, Wallingford has been recognized as Connecticut's most significant exporter of manufactured parts and products. This speaks to the strength of our business community, who not only pays significant taxes, they also create and sustain employment for Wallingford families and support other businesses in town. At the same time, we are located in a state whose government seems hostile to business. We have to hope that the state environment is not so challenging as to weaken Wallingford's ability to continue to keep and attract businesses. It is important to acknowledge that our business tax base contributes significantly to our town's affordability for its residents. I have no doubt that we will also continue to seek to maintain, if not improve, the quality of life for our residents. We will continue to make sure that recreational opportunities and educational opportunities continue for people of all ages. We will also make sure that town services and public safety continue at appropriate levels. We cannot ignore our challenges. Nonetheless, I remain confident that this council will continue to focus on what is great about Wallingford, maintain it, and improve it wherever possible. And I thank you all. Thank you. Since the mayor's not running back to the podium, I will move us along to the election of Town Council Vice Chairman. Are there nominations for Vice Chairman? Councilor Letourneau.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to bring forth a name tonight for Vice Chair, and that is Tom Laffin. I've watched Tom for a number of years up here, and he's a man of integrity. He is a great help to the council and to the chairman. When the chairman is not here, Tom takes over, does a great job. And he truly is a man for the town of Wallingford, for the people of Wallingford. He really cares. He cares about the issues. He stands firm on a lot of the issues that come forward because those are his beliefs. And he believes those are good for the town of Wallingford. And I agree with him a lot of the time. So it is with great pleasure I formally nominate Tom Laffin for Vice Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilor Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've known Tom for a very long time. He's a dear friend of mine. Tom's been in public service, I think, for 12 years now. And for a man of his age, I think that's pretty phenomenal when you think about it. When Tom was leaving the Board of Ed, which he had served on for several terms, he said to me, I should run for the Board of Ed. He said I'd be a great fit for that job. And so I ran and I was elected. In my first meeting, there was 500 angry parents at a meeting. And we were talking about cuts. And there was yelling and there was tears. And it was a pretty dramatic evening. When Tom's involved in a lot of things in his community. He's an Eagle Scout, if you didn't know that, which I think is pretty outstanding. When our scout pack needed another adult leader, Tom said to me, I think you'd be really great at this job, and got me involved. And I went to my first meeting, and there was 40 screaming kids. So there was yelling and tears, if you see a theme here. And so Tom has been done a lot in scouting as well. Tom believes very strongly in this community. The thing you need to understand about the council is there's a lot of yelling and tears on the council. And I can think of several issues as of late that have gotten fairly heated and pretty dramatic. I don't think you can overstate the impact of the number 2 man on the council. The number 1 guy gets all of the glamour, and the number 2 guy holds the broom afterwards and cleans up. There's a lot of big egos up here, as was stated before, and it's not an easy job. Tom is very bright, he's very thoughtful, and Tom does his homework, he's on top of every issue. So, Tom, for that I'd like to say I think you'd be a great fit for this job. And with that, I'd like to second the nomination of Tom Laffin for Town Council Vice Chair.
Nominated and seconded. Are there any other nominations for Vice Chair?
Mr. Chairman, I move that nominations be closed.
There's a motion to close nominations, which has been seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Nominations are closed. And we'll call the vote on Tom Laffin for Council Vice Chairman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Congratulations, Vice Chairman Laffin. And welcome back. With that, we'll move on to the swearing in of the Board of Education. Would Judge Wright please come forward again, as well as the members of the elected members of the Board of Education?
For those of you here, I'll ask you all to raise your right hands. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, your duties as members of the Wallingford Board of Education to the best of your abilities, so help you God? I do. Congratulations all.
Congratulations.
Aaron.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to ask you, well, what we're going to do is retire the colors, and then right after that, we're going to take a break for about 20 minutes to allow the band to clear out and allow people to have a brief celebration before we move on to our business. So, Roy Cannon, if you would, please retire the colors.
Everyone please stand.
Go into their meeting room and do it. Yeah.
Color guard, retire the colors. And salute.
Thank you. We'll take a recess. Call the meeting back to order. We will start with the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve and accept consent agenda items 13A through H and J through T.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Pick your second, Madam Clerk. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. The consent agenda passes. The item removed from the consent agenda is item 13I.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve a transfer in the amount of $10,200 from regular salaries and wages account to the vehicle and property damage account from the police department.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Good evening, Chief. What's going on?
Good evening. On behalf of the police department, congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
Good luck in your next 2-year term. The police department carries a line in our budget for vehicle deductible for cruiser accidents primarily. Each cruiser accident, the deductible is $2,000. We have had a number of cruiser accidents. Some are our fault, some are not. The ones that are hitting our line that are not are for vehicles that are not insured by the opposing party. The risk manager and the town attorney do a tremendous job of recovering those funds later on. But until such time it hits our deductible, and certainly the recovery might be into the next fiscal year. We've had 3 accidents very recently, which brings that deductible line down to just a few $100s. Seeing that we have several months left in the fiscal year, I'm requesting this transfer respectfully to get us through the rest of the year.
Thank you, Chief. Councilor Morgenstein, this was your item. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Chief Wright. Yeah, I'm new, so I'm trying to learn. So I guess the 2 questions. So a $2,000 deductible seems a bit steep. As we're looking at your budget in this coming year, do we think that that has been fairly standard across what your costs are? Does that seem to need an adjustment at all?
Well, the deductible has been fairly consistent at $2,000 for many years. Those are rates that we get from the risk manager's office. I purposely don't put a lot of money into this line only because if you look back over several years, it's very inconsistent, if anything. I try, obviously, we do everything not to have these accidents, right? So I don't foresee that I would grow that line next year unless there's some really significant events that are occurring that, that would cause me to do that. We put probably 500,000 miles on our fleet a year in all types of weather. Some accidents are purely our fault. Some aren't, and when they are not, and the opposing party doesn't have insurance, it hits that line right away. Other than that, the vehicle would have to sit and wait for some sort of a amount of money to be recovered from the other party, and I think we could all agree that that could be months, if not even a year.
Yeah, I never had any intention of not giving. I just really wanted to understand it. I was kind of stunned to think that police cars having accidents, but yes, no, it's a motor vehicle collision in the medical world. We don't call it an accident anymore. Yeah, because the whole blame thing. So, and that makes sense too, that if there's an accident that you're trying to get the money back. So yeah, I just really mostly wanted to understand it, and I appreciate, and it makes sense that some years are very different from others. I was just trying to imagine hitting a police car and then being uninsured on top of it is pretty crazy. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Chief.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the council? Councilor Zandri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, as long as you're sitting there, I guess I do have a couple of quick questions. This is coming out of the salaries account to move it over?
Yes.
And you've got that buffer, are we, because we've got a salary down, or?
We're currently carrying 2 police officer vacancies. We are in the process of, actually, we've offered 2 lateral transfer candidates. It's a new process for us to try to beat that time that the officers are in the academy. New officers spend 26 or 27 weeks now at the academy. So where there are lateral transfer candidates, the personnel department has helped me with an exam for that. So they could come over, essentially retire or resign from their current agency, come over to us, a very short training period, and then we can turn them right out on the road in probably less than 2 months. So while I'm carrying those vacancies, that's where that money is.
So there's flexibility because of that reason, and then if the risk management office gets that funding back, it'll just go back to the line item anyway, correct?
It'll come back to the line item if it's in the current fiscal year, and I suspect that the finance department would adjust the prior fiscal year.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this either. I just wanted to make sure I understood the way it was being moved around. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the council? Questions, comments from the public? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you for your time, Chief. Up next is the public question and answer period. There appear to be no takers, and so we will move on. I'm actually going to jump ahead to item 18 for logistical reasons.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve a release of easement for 50 North Plains Industrial Road.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Please introduce yourselves for the record.
Richard Hendershot, Director of Public Utilities.
Tony Bucari, General Manager.
Mr. Bucari, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I hope you're having fun. All right, what do you have for us?
Well, I guess we're here to answer any questions the council may have about this. I'm going to presume, I'm not certain, but I think you may have the same materials that the Public Utility Commission had when it took this matter up at an earlier PUC meeting and approved staff's recommendation to release the easement. From that point on, it becomes sort of a two-pronged process. That approval needs to be obtained from this body as well, and then parallel to that, subject to this approval, the property owner and the town law department will exchange and execute some paperwork, and then the easement will be released.
So what was the original purpose of the easement?
Circa 1960, it would have included an overhead power line that brought what would have then been considered extra high voltage electricity from Connecticut Light and Power into Wallingford. I don't know the time frame that line was abandoned and then removed, but it's been quite some time. In the 14 years I've been here, it was mild ancient history when I got here then. So it's been a while since that easement's been used for that purpose.
And so if we abandon it, we don't have it anymore, but we're confident that we don't need it?
Correct. We've looked at it, the water and sewer divisions have looked at it to determine if we need it. And this easement is rather lengthy, and parts of it have been released already at other property owners along the path. Much of it still is in the town's name, but it's no longer contiguous.
Oh, well, that's significant in and of itself, the fact that it's not continuous anymore. Correct. So it's just a strip that ends at either end of that piece of property?
It's in bits and pieces now, yes, instead of one long line from the edge of our service territory down to, I'm not sure where the southern terminus of it was.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome, sir. So I don't think we have everything that the PUC had, because the correspondence references a map, and we didn't get
Okay.
the map. Are
I brought a copy, I could share it with you.
Yeah, that would probably be helpful.
Okay.
I'll just pass it down. I guess we only got one. If I could just. Okay. Okay, thank you, and I'll pass it down to my colleagues. So you indicated that it's in pieces now. Is there any intent to go back and release it for all of the other pieces that it presently exists?
We have no plans to make that effort. Instead, we would wait for each individual property owner to request its release, because it would need to be done on an individual property basis anyway.
Well, I'm just concerned because a property with an easement arguably has a lesser value than a property without an easement. And property value times mill rate equals taxes. And perhaps we get additional tax revenue out of that. Is there an inventory somewhere of, I mean, this has been a long time, this thing's been sitting here without being used, encumbering a property. Do we have an inventory of properties like this that are similarly situated, that we perhaps can be dealing with these cleanups?
Not that I'm aware of.
Because clearly it's the property owner who wants to develop their property and, came to the town. They're being restricted to, increase the value of their property. Seems to me for economic development purposes, it would be beneficial to look at that. I mean, I'm in favor of what's before us. I just think we can deal with this in perhaps a more efficient fashion. So those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Attorney Farrell?
Yes, Chairman Cervoni, I wanted to add that over the years, as Rick has said, there's been several requests. We've always granted them. In the beginning, I kind of advocated that we ought to charge for releasing them because, as Councilman Fishbein said, it does add value to the property to be released. I thought we should get some money out of it, but my idea never gained any traction. We've never charged anybody for releasing it, and this would be consistent with that. We're not seeking to be paid for releasing it.
Thank you. Other questions from the council? Councilor Letourneau?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have to recuse myself from voting on this. I'm related to one of the principals of Kovacs machine.
Okay, I believe you seconded the motion, so do you withdraw your second?
I'm going to withdraw my second.
Okay, will somebody second this?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Fishbein. Okay, any other questions, comments from the council? There being none, questions or comments from the public? There being none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Fishbein,
Yes.
Laffin,
Yes.
Moreau,
Yes.
Morgenstein? Yes. Shortell?
Yes.
Testa,
Yes.
Zandri,
Yes.
Chairman Cervoni.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, back to item 16.
I move we go into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Sections 1-206B with respect to a workers' compensation case in the matter of Reynolds versus the town of Wallingford.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of going into executive session for the reasons described signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I declare the council in executive session. Please kindly clear the council chambers. Call the meeting back to order. Is there a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I declare the council back in public session. On to item 17.
I move we authorize a settlement in the pending workers' compensation case in the matter of Reynolds versus the town of Wallingford as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the council? There being none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Fishbein,
Yes.
Laffin,
Yes.
Letourneau,
Yes.
Marone,
Yes.
Morgenstein,
Yes.
Shortell,
Yes.
Testa,
Yes.
Zandri,
Yes.
Chairman Cervoni.
Yes.
Motion passes.
There being no further business on the agenda, a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and multiply seconded. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, I declare this meeting adjourned.